Well, a big day when it comes to the government's response to the illegal migration crisis, of course, across from France that we've seen get worse for a number of years. And make no mistake about it, despite all the tough talk, in actual fact, the crossings in 2023 have been even worse so far, larger in number than we saw last year. Now, some big front pages, some big talk about this government plan to finally try and stop the boats. But of course, we've seen big front pages and big talk, tough talk about what the government are going to do before. And guess what? The crisis got even worse. There are doubts already being cast by some Conservative MPs that actually Rishi Sunak's government are over-promising and not going to be able to deliver the type of change on this in terms of stopping the boats that they are talking about. And just to give you a flavour of what was being briefed out about this, you see the government's plan there. Apparently, nearly all small boat claims will become inadmissible. For instance, that there will be new mass detention powers and a lifetime ban on returning to the UK. I know some are very keen to sort of ignore public opinion when it comes to issues like this, but I thought this was really interesting from YouGov. You see here, far more voters, far more Brits support banning those who come to the UK in small boats from ever re-entering the UK or being able to settle permanently in the UK or receiving British citizenship. You see that 50 to 36. We also know, of course, that far more Brits now, after we've seen the ECHR's intervention, for instance, on the Rwanda policy, that it doesn't look like is going to happen anytime soon still, almost a year after being announced. We know that more Brits now clearly support leaving ECHR than remaining, which brings me to this part of the government's plan, this illegal migration bill. The ministers are admitting it is at the outer limits of the UK's ECHR obligations. And I will keep highlighting the fact that we have this frankly bizarre situation where we have a Home Secretary who has said very clearly the UK needs to leave ECHR to stop the boats, and a Prime Minister who is committed to the UK remaining in ECHR.
If we are serious about completing the Brexit promises, if we are serious about taking back control of our borders, then there is no alternative but for the UK to leave the European Convention on Human Rights and permanently exclude the jurisdiction of the European Court of Human Rights.
Prime Minister.
Madam Deputy Speaker, the UK is and will remain a member of the ECHR.
Basically, the review of this illegal migration bill is that it goes as far as possible while remaining committed to ECHR. I mean, what are the government waiting for exactly before they finally leave ECHR? Well, you finally got Conservative MPs like Simon Clarke talking about this, saying if this immigration bill falls short or is derailed, we need to leave ECHR. Of course, by then it may be too late. Voters may simply have given up on the prospect of a Conservative government actually stopping the boats, especially when you've got a Reform UK party, for instance, planning to stand candidates all over the country at the next general election on a pledge clearly to leave ECHR. But look, this is what the government had to say about this new bill today. Watch this and just let me know very simply, do you have faith in the government to stop the boats while remaining committed to ECHR or not?
For a government not to respond to waves of illegal migrants breaching our borders would be to betray the will of the people we were elected to serve. Now, the small boats problem is part of a larger global migration crisis. In the coming years, developed countries will face unprecedented levels with pressures from ever greater numbers of people leaving the developing world for places like the United Kingdom. Unless we act today, the problem will be worse tomorrow, and the problem is already unsustainable. Mr. Speaker, people are dying in the Channel. The volume of illegal arrivals has overwhelmed our asylum system. The backlog has ballooned to over 160,000. The asylum system now costs the British taxpayer £3 billion a year. Since 2018, some 85,000 people illegally entered the United Kingdom by small boat, 45,000 of them in 2022 alone. All travelled through multiple safe countries in which they could and should have claimed asylum. many came from safe countries like Albania. Almost all passed through France. The vast majority, 74% in 2021, were adult males under the age of 40, rich enough to pay criminal gangs thousands of pounds for passage. Upon arrival, most are accommodated in hotels across the country, costing the British taxpayer around £6 million a day. The risk remains that these individuals just disappear, and when we try to remove them, they turn our generous asylum laws against us to prevent removal. The need for reform is obvious and is urgent. This government has not sat on its hands, Mr. Speaker. Since this Prime Minister took office, recognising the necessity of joint solutions with France, we've signed a new deal providing more technology and embedding British officers with French patrols. And I hope Friday's Anglo-French summit will further deepen that cooperation. We've created a new small boats operational command with over 700 new staff. We've doubled NCA funding to tackle the smuggling gangs. We've increased enforcement raids by 50%. We've signed a deal with Albania, which has already enabled the return of hundreds of illegal arrivals. And we're procuring accommodation, including on military land, to end the farce of accommodating migrants in hotels. But let's be honest, it's still not enough. In the face of today's global migration crisis, yesterday's laws are simply not fit for purpose. So to anyone proposing de facto open borders through unlimited safe and legal routes as the alternative, let's be honest, there are 100 million people around the world who could qualify for protection under our current laws. Let's be clear, they are coming here. We've seen a 500% increase in small boats crossings in 2 years. And this, Mr. Speaker, is the crucial point of this bill. They will not stop coming here until the world knows that if you enter Britain illegally, you will be detained and swiftly removed.